I don't know where it went, but it's chosen to disappear mostly, so I need a drink. I'm going to make you talk now, Tammy. Whoa. Thank the Lord. All right, move on. Okay, so that is Crisis Aid's mission statement: saving lives, saving souls, changing futures. And that is what they go by. They definitely find people. They don't just introduce them to Jesus. They disciple them. They also get them out of whatever wretches that they're in, and they give them a job. They teach them a vocation, and they literally change their lives. And then those people go on to change others' lives. And I'll show you guys some pictures of some people that have done that. Flip it, Charles. All right. The guy on, I guess, would it be? You all's, this side over here to me. Other side to you all, is Pat Bradley. The person next to him, she is the mom of the girl's home. The little girl standing next to the other man, she is a 18-year-old girl fixing to turn 19. When she was 4 years old, she had some horrible things happen to her in her family through relatives. And I'm just not even going to go into the details. You can use your imagination. And the worst thing you can think of happened to her many times. When she was 9, she left. So if you can imagine a 9-year-old leaving home because it's so horrible, they can't stand it. And when a 9-year-old leaves home, what happens? People take advantage of them. And that's what happened to her. She worked in bars and I don't know what all, just to find food. And then, of course, in those situations, they got her hooked on drugs and got her doing other things that she wouldn't have wanted to do anyway. Went to live with an aunt after that, found herself in the same horrible predicament with an uncle, and then left again. Back to the streets she was. But what Crisis Aid does is they take a van, they drive it down the middle of the red light district in Ethiopia, and they, at the day of, they walk up and down the street just talking to whoever they can, tell them, if you want to get out of this, you have yourself and your kids, if you have kids, when we bring this van down the street, we're going to throw the doors open, you jump in, and we will help you. We will change your life. Because they got to get them out of there, because there are people that make money off of them, and they do not want them out of there. So this little girl chose to do that. She herself doesn't have any children. And now she has been through bakery school. She is going to run the bakery that they are opening pretty soon. And she is giving her testimony to change other people's lives. The man next to her, he's actually a Jewish Ethiopian, very interesting, which if you all knew my husband at all, you would know why they liked each other a lot. He's quite a scholarly guy also, but he's a physician, and he runs the program in Ethiopia, along with his wife, who is the mother of all mothers to those girls and those orphans. This is just a picture of a commercial building that they're building. It's going to be 9 stories tall. Miraculously, money comes into their use. Miraculously, land comes into their use over there. But they plan it on being 9 stories tall. As you can see, there's one sign that says it's reserved for the Bank of Addis, which is the bank out of their capital. And this is in a small village. So that will make a lot of other companies want to rent places in this building. It's also the bottom story will house a beauty shop, which will be ran by the girls who have become cosmetologists through the Girls Home program. And the bakery that the other girl will run, it is on the bottom story also, and the bank will be on the bottom. That's a picture of the window that's open now, and that is the beauty salon. And that's one of the girls that is running it. And that's, the bakery's not open yet, but that's the sign they have there.
It might be by now.
Oh, it could be. I don't know. Now, this little restaurant, they do restaurants like street restaurants. They're not necessarily in a place. They're just out on the road, and you sit down at a table and get your food. So this sits in front of that building, and it's called the Red Rope Restaurant. Anybody have any clue why it's the Red Rope? Okay. Huh? Why? Rahab. What was Rahab? Rahab was a prostitute, wasn't she? We don't know why she was a prostitute. Maybe somebody took Rahab and did horrible things to her. We don't know. The Bible doesn't say, does it? But these girls we do know. And what did Rahab do? She helped the guys that Joshua sent into Jericho, didn't she? She hid them. She saved their life. And then she hung that scarlet rope, red rope, right out the window to save her family. So all the girls' projects that they do and open are called the red rope, whatever. So very appropriate name, I think. That's Pat with the girls. We were blessed enough to, and Betty, that's Dr. Hanok's wife there, blessed enough to be there the day that they did the ribbon cutting for that restaurant. So that was so amazingly cool to be able to see that. And all the girls in the aprons and stuff, those are all girls rescued and that have been vocationally trained. That's the pizza. Looks kind of like our pizza. Doesn't taste like our pizza. Just to let you know. Tammy would not eat the pizza.
I ate that one.
Oh, okay. She didn't eat a lot, though. Okay, so this girl, her name is Farot. The first time I went was about 11 or 12 years ago, and she had just got in the program. And so I've seen her every time I've went back, and now she's helping run that restaurant. She is a wonderful, amazing lady, but I feel blessed to be able to have been able to help her in any way and to know her all these years. So that's her. This is behind the industrial building, the commercial building. That is going to be the girls' home. The home that I've seen in the past is just a regular Ethiopian home, and each of the girls share a room with their kids or share a room with a roommate. It doesn't hold a lot of girls, and they had girls spread out everywhere. But now this is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall. It will house 100 girls when they're done. And if you'll flip it, Charles, this is a picture of one of their rooms. So they do have a little, their own little space and everything. The sheets, the curtains, everything that can be made vocationally, the girls do. And so they also have seamstress classes, which I'm sure I could learn something from. Besides getting to see that ribbon cutting, we happened to be there. You can see that machine, the yellow doodaddy in the back. That's a machine drilling for water. And while we were standing on the balcony, just looking at everything that they have, they hit water. So that was really cool too. That's like, oh, thank you, Jesus. That was nice for you to let me see that. And as you can see, that water, it's not very, it's running. You can't tell it's running, but it's running quite nicely. And they'll have enough to have water for that whole building and stuff. Because water there is a commodity. It doesn't come easy, and it's a hard thing to come by. Cost a lot if you want to have running water in a place too, but they'll be self-sufficient. They'll have their own. And the next one, Charles. And now it's Tammy's turn.
I just feel so blessed that I got to experience this, and to experience it with Lori was even that much better. And just the things she's helped, God's used her to open my eyes to, it's amazing. So, and I feel real privileged because since she had the connection with the organization and everything, that I was able to tag along and see this, because rest of the team didn't come in and get to do all this. There was just a select few of us that got to go see the girls' home, the new building, and go to the orphanage. This is what the home looks like. It's a 2-story building. It's very plain, very simple. You can go to the next one, honey. They have just the two swings that they swing and play on, but that they're content. It just takes very little to make them happy and put a big smile on their face. This was Martha. She was kind of the little girl I teamed up with. We each kind of had a girl. I didn't get a picture of Lori with her girl. And she took me and showed her her bunk and told me she sleeps on top. And my friend is helping me put together a scrapbook, and she pointed out, and she's like, Tammy, if there's really a child that sleeps on that bottom bunk, there's not even a mattress on that bottom bunk. So, just the little things that we take for granted. And so the girls come to the orphanage, just like Lori said, the girls' home. Betty goes out and to me, Betty's probably like what we would call a social worker here in the States. And she comes across the girls that are in need or something, and sometimes they have family that can't take care of them, or they've had to be with the extended family and they can no longer take care of them. So they come and live at the orphanage, but at times, if it's a safe environment for them to go back into, during the summer break or something, the girls can go back and visit those relatives or whatever. But the whole thing there being if it's a safe environment for those girls to go back into. And so they may do that during the summer or some off weeks, but they're always back at the orphanage when it's time to start classes like we would school here in the States. So yeah, there's windows open because there is no air conditioning. A fan will go next year. Lori has fans. So, yeah. And this was just, Lori's and I didn't make it this day when we were there, but all of the other people that were there brought so much. Everybody just blessed the girls, and they were all so excited, and so they started making piles for each of the girls. They were just going through everything that everybody had brought and making a pile for each girl, and to just sit there and watch them do that, it was, I don't know, our kids are spoiled, and what Christmas morning is like for our kids, just the joy of sitting there watching these girls with this was amazing. They work really hard. They were getting ready for us, and so this was a picture we snapped of a couple of the girls tag teaming it to get the water out to where they needed it. And this is everywhere we went that day. And I'm not a coffee drinker, but the thing that they do is you have your coffee ceremony, which includes those nuts and the popcorn. And that day, I got to tell this because it's really funny. And they had these big, massive rolls that they served us. Smelled so wonderful. It was just and Lori and I tried telling the girl when she brought them by to us, we'll just share one. Well, number one, she probably really didn't understand what we were saying, but she shook her head at us, making us both take a roll. Well, I take a bite of it, and there's something in it that I just look at Lori, and I'm like, Lori, I can't eat this. And so we're both sitting there, and we just kind of tuck the bread in our purses. And go on, because we don't want to offend anyone, because we've already said no to the coffee, so we had to take the roll, and we took the popcorn. So that was just our kind of little funny moment of trying to hide the bread and not offend anyone. So
miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, there is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, there is who you are. You never stop working. You never stop working.
And that was just an amazing, you can turn it to the next one, because Lori and I were sitting there, and I nudged Lori. I'm like, she's singing. She could barely talk English to us, but I started hearing her sing that, and I was just like nudging Lori. And so Lori's smart and thinks faster than I do sometimes, and so she jumps up and pulls her to the side, because she stopped once we noticed it. She wouldn't do it anymore. And so Lori pulled her to the side, and we were able to get that little clip of her singing, and it just blessed both of us so much. This was over the flight from Addis, right? Addis to Awassa. I just thought that was a neat picture, so I snapped the picture, and Lori, she's just laughing at me the whole time, because I don't know how many pictures and videos are on my phone, but I just thought it was a neat picture. And so then Charles did the little research for us there, and it's an extinct volcano, and he said that people actually live on top of that right now. So that was just one of my neat pictures, I thought. This was after we got into Awassa and was on the bus headed to Della, and it just blew my mind. You've got to the airport, and it was a small airport, but the first thing we see when we come out of the airport is all these animals. But the thing that I could not get past is the beauty. When you look at that, the mountains and just that lake and everything, just the beauty. You can turn to the next one, babe. And I told Lori I've never been there. She has, but for some reason when we were riding in the bus, it just made me think about the Sea of Galilee. I'd never been there, but that's what it made me think of. And there's a little bit of a video of the lake. It should be stopping. But and you never knew what you were going to see. And Lori, the thing she kept saying, Tammy, you just have to remember, only in Africa. So here we are going down the road in this this big bus, but we have the donkey cart. And then the next one we have the man, hauling the water, So then and this just amazed me. I'm like, I've never seen such things, that you could just barely see the poor little donkey. And they had piled that straw up on him, but he just kept trucking. And this was one of the homes that we seen on the drive. Another one. Oh, now we're to our... We've made it to the resort. The baboons and the monkeys. That Monday morning, we were all sitting outside on the patio, and they had been watching us for a while. But this one got brave. He jumps down, and he's on that rail, and we see he's getting real close. So we all jump up from the table, and he stole my pancake. And he enjoyed my pancake that morning, and I sent that to Charles, and I guess it made good conversation with the boys that morning on the way to school, because he had all 7 boys to get to school that morning. So that was a fun thing.
We didn't eat outside anymore.
No, we stayed in the rest of the time.
Okay, so isn't that just the loveliest finger you've ever seen in your life? There you go. But
And now you can see.
now you can't see anything. Yeah, no, it's gone. But the day before we left, I was trying to get things together that needed to be together, and one of the things is with my in-laws, they need things out of a storage that we've had for forever. So I was just bound and determined, by goodness, to move that stuff. So I got down there.
By herself.
Whatever. Anyway, I moved some of it. I did get it moved, though. But I'm a midget, right? So I pull the door down, which is way up, and my finger, this finger, gets stuck in the garage part that comes down. Well, I'm not very tall, and my finger's way up there, and anyway, it sliced it really good, like really good. Now, what I love to do is wound care. Well, that looked a whole lot worse than that. Like, it looked very nasty. And one of my kids was like, Mom, you can't do wound care. Like, what you're going to be putting your hands in, and you can't do that with that finger. So I'm like, oh, Jesus, please, something's got to change. Anyway, I changed the Band-Aid 10 million times on the way to Ethiopia after we got there. But this is on the bus going to the clinic that morning. And I had changed it that morning before, but I washed my hands before I got on the bus, and my Band-Aid fell off. And that's my finger. And Charles said, you guys prayed for me that Sunday before. So you can tell God, thank you for answering your prayers, because I think that much just stayed there to remind me while I was taking care of all those wounds that, hey, God does heal. He's with you, and you're doing what he wants you to do. So anyway, that was pretty cool. It made my life quite happy that day. Okay, is this your deal?
Yeah. One of the things that fascinated me, you would see motorcycles. It seemed a lot of people were able to have motorcycles. And you never knew how many people you might see on the motorcycle. And on this one, you've got like 3 adults, whatever, bags, and a child. And then on the next one, this one cracked me up. Those look like the rolls, like they served us. They were going somewhere to deliver those rolls, and so we have all three guys in our rolls on our deal.
Okay, so this is the picture of the Hand of Hope team that we took. We took 40 plus people from 3 different countries. So, and it is like an all volunteer thing. So it was a amazing mesh of people. And then the next slide, I think, this is the Ethiopian team. 23 Ethiopian doctors volunteered to spend their time there, and 2 dentists. So there were a lot of people. And an eye doctor and a surgeon. So there were an amazing amount of people. Now, if you took, and then on top of that, there were the interpreters and the volunteers from Ethiopia. So you had at least 100 people. How many times have you ever went somewhere with 100 people that they all fell into what they were supposed to be doing and did it well and blessed each other doing it?
When there's a language barrier.
Oh, absolutely. And there's not just a language barrier, because Ethiopia has tribes. So the national language is Amharic. So the interpreters spoke Amharic, and then the people from the area had to speak Amharic and the tribal language, because the people spoke the tribal language. So you said what you wanted to the interpreter, who said it to the other person, who said it to the person getting the care. Then they said what they said, and it went back and forth and back and forth. But truthfully, God just has a way of making people mesh. If if everybody's heart is for the same thing, and people did mesh, and it helped us to do what we needed to do, and also be a good witness, because if people were fussing around and acting silly, that wouldn't have went over very well at all. There you go. How many people?
Charles found this one that he stuck on there. You've got like four children, and the 3 adults on that motorcycle. So, it's just... I'm going to be, our days started really early. We had to be up and to devotional by 6 a.m. But, God used a different person every morning to give us a word for that day, and just the encouragement that we received. And, you never knew how long the bus ride to the clinic would take, because there may be a herd that they're wanting to move down the road, and you just have to stop and wait, or the goats just laid everywhere. And so there may be some goats just laying in the road that you've got to, they've got to get them out of the way. There was a few times, like in different areas, they would just have a rope across the road that was like a checkpoint, or I considered it like a checkpoint, like we do here. And the bus driver would say something to them, and next thing we know, the rope would go down and we'd be on our way. And, but you just never knew how long it was going to take you to get to and from clinic. So this was, the next one is a video of what we experienced every morning coming in. The ride there was just amazing. They had put a speaker with praise and worship on, and, just looking out on God's beauty and just worshiping Him. But this is what we experienced. What's our next one? You've seen them all sitting in that tent, and they were just lined up everywhere, waiting to get into the clinic. This was registration, and they tried to set it where Lori said this is one of the nicer places she's ever been to, that there was a lot of tents, and so they tried to have the people out of the sun and us out of the sun and in the shade. I'm not a nurse, so Lori had already kind of told me, she goes, you can do weight and temperature. So I ended up in triage, and this is a picture with the whole triage team. Ashley's kind of squatted down there in the front. She's the coordinator for Hand of Hope, and Pat jumped in the picture with us there on the side. And that's just that man with the headpiece on and everything. Lori's known him for a while. His name's Jeff. He was just an amazing man. He was kind of like a father to everybody there. He's probably not that much older than us, but he kind of just was the father for everybody. And he went around, and the thing that really blessed me, those people would wait hours, no telling how far they had walked or anything, but God used Jeff that he would make sure that, I don't know where he went and how he did it, but he came up with bread that you'll see some pictures later of the babies and the mamas with some bread, but he would make sure that each of them got one of those big rolls like we've seen. And so he was just a very unique man that I loved getting to know and spend time with. And that's just, I got lazy on that one and sat down for a while. This couple that came to registration, they told us that little man was 102 years old. And it was just a cute little couple. And you can go on through it, honey. And that's where they were checking his blood pressure and getting her checked in. They're in triage. There's even twins in Africa that I got to see. I seen 3 sets. These were the 2 sets that I managed to get pictures of. There was a 3rd set that I really wanted pictures of because even in Africa, the twins were dressed alike, and I wanted to prove a point to my daughter, but I didn't get a picture. This was one of the healthy babies we've seen. You can tell by looking at him, he's a healthy baby. Not all of them look like that. And this was my co-worker that I worked with doing the weight and temps. She was from Australia, neat lady. And that's how we would usually see them every evening when we would get ready to leave. They were just all clustered around and would be waving and singing to us. But the neat thing, you can barely kind of see it in this picture. It rained a lot while we were there, or I felt like a lot. But one night it became a real downpour, and we had to go back to clinic or back to our thing. And Pastor had sent all these lights, and I thought, why are we going to? We were very thankful for these lights because the lighting in the place was very dim, so we could set up his light he sent us, and we had our own brightness, and the flashlight was amazing getting us from the restaurant thing where dinner was and especially in the rain. But it had rained so much, and this day this was on Tuesday. We had sat on the bus a little while. They were trying. The pharmacy usually was they were the last ones to get done and get on the bus usually, and we had sat there for a little while, and then to wait to get all the people cleared out and everything. And it had been raining after clinic closed, and we never got wet. And we were listening to praise and worship and driving back, and I looked over, and I seen the rainbow. And it just blessed me because that's God's promise to us. And it was just, and the beauty of that background and everything, it just so blessed me to see that rainbow. So.
Now it's my turn again. So 449 men, women, children got to see a dentist while we were there. That's a lot of people for a dentist to see, 2 dentists. And most of these people had never seen a dentist before. So their teeth weren't probably in the best of shape, but they pulled 190 teeth in those 5 days. So anyway, these are dental pictures, and obviously he's not too happy with that tooth in the back of his mouth. And you can just keep going, Charles. And then there's a little one. And that guy, at least they did numb them up. That's a good thing. So, yeah. And that lady, they gave everybody toothbrush, toothpaste, tried to instruct them on, dental hygiene, because your mouth can make your whole body sick. If you don't have good oral health, your whole body probably will have an issue sooner or later. So this little guy, Dottie, that's Tammy's cohort in crime, but this little guy walks on his knees. He can't walk except for on his knees, so he gets everywhere he goes on his knees. So you can imagine what his knees look like, right? They're terrible. Would you go back one, please? Yeah. So Dottie, she's a physical therapist, and she's been with me a couple of times. She came over to wound care. We came up with some kind of bandages, and most of the bandages and stuff people bring from like nurses, and people didn't use them in the room or whatever. But anyway, we wrapped his knees, and he can continue to do that, and then put ACE wraps around him. So it's like next time I think I'm going to try to remember to take some soccer pads or something. But that way he can get around without getting the dirt and the nasty and whatever rocks scraping his knees up all the time. So that was a nice thing that somebody had probably wondered why they threw in their bag, but we obviously put it to use.
That little girl standing in the background, we got to see her mom and her, and they are a very blessed family compared to most people we see, and you can tell how she's dressed. The mom was expecting, and Lori actually took the Doppler and we tried to let her hear the baby's heartbeat, because that don't happen over there. But it was too noisy, and she just couldn't get it to do. But I just wanted to point out that that little girl is a very blessed little girl. This is just the walkthrough that Charles talked about. It shows you the different areas. We start out in registration, and then and I don't know who even videoed this. Everything would just get airdropped to you. That was what our triage area looked like. And this was a very nice building that these people were blessed with. This was probably one of the nicest buildings we seen in the area. But you walked in, and they just had, the eye doctor is off to the side. That's the eye doctor area. And then that was a kind of a inside waiting area. And then they just have all these little cubicles set up with where the doctors could each meet with the patients.
Yeah, it is a church, yes. No, they don't. They don't even write anything down much.
And then you just have people waiting, and out once they got through being seen by the doctors, they went to the ministry tent where people ministered to them, and that's where we had salvation. And that's one word I learned was amo. I did learn that one, amo. Don't ask me any others. That's all. This was our pharmacy. There was 4 windows along there that they gave. They had antibiotics and
vitamins, blood pressure medicine, diabetic medication. They had a good list of things that they could give them.
And they swing around here. That building there is just where we were able to store all of our stuff. They've always said in the past they would have to carry stuff home on the bus or something every evening. That was where you washed your hands before you went back there to eat lunch. But we were even blessed that we got to store all of our stuff there and just had to go every morning and get it out. There's wound care. And then we've got the 2 tents, the 2 areas for the dentist. And that was the dental waiting area. That's what those tents were set up for. And this was the bathroom. Lori said it wasn't fair that I didn't have to really experience this, because we had a nice bus that had, as long as you just had to tinkle, you could go to the bus and use the bathroom on the bus. But this was what the bathroom looked like. The blue containers, there's little spigots, and they catch the water underneath. That's how you wash your hands once you're finished. And there's what the bathroom looks like. I never went. Somebody else airdropped this video to me. And now your turn.
Okay, so this is the team that the group of people that I worked with, we did wound care. So any burn, any whatever scratch, bruise, anything that was open skin stuff, they came to us. And there was another little area, kind of looked like the pharmacy area, that the surgeon set up a literal table with a sheet, drape, something on it, and did minor surgeries. So I didn't see any of those surgeries. And anyway, they did them with lidocaine and took care of people. This little guy here, if you'll leave it there for just a second, Charles, his name I can't say, so we called him Z. But he is he's a pastor in the area, and he was an interpreter, and we gave him one of these shirts. James made these shirts the last year that we went, and in the back it says in English, everything in the Lord's time. So anyway, we kind of took them and wore them in honor of him. But we took a lot of shoes, and some of you guys all donated shoes. When you see pictures of these people's feet in a little bit, you're going to see that they have a lot of issues because they walk barefoot. That volcanic ash puts some stuff in the soil that makes them get something called mossy foot, which their feet swell, their toes, they get this real coarse, almost like if you had just like this huge giant bunch of warts. That's kind of what happens. It can be cured with shoes and a certain kind of ointment that you put on it till it goes away. But they don't have the shoes. Now some of them have shoes, though. But their feet, yes, are very hard. Can you guys hear me if I do this? Okay, because I want to show you. So I took a pair of my old shoes and made them into shoes so y'all could see. So this is just, a regular shoe, right? So a regular foot, it fit in that shoe. But when you see the pictures, you will see that these feet won't fit in those shoes at all. And they need the shoes. So we were I've been many times and we never thought of this. God, I don't know why. We didn't have this insight then, but actually, I'm sure he gave us insight this time there. So we cut the tongue out of the shoes. We used the shoelaces, and you can make that shoe that way. So anyway, it's a pretty cool deal, and you got to give God all the credit, because who in the world would think of cutting up shoes to make shoes? Absolutely a God thing. Okay, now you can turn it. This little girl's, her name's Grace. She's her mom works for Crisis Aid, and she helped me in wound care. She kind of became my Jessica, who is my daughter that usually goes and helps me. Anyway, she just jumped right in there, and you can't really see that person's foot, but they have mossy foot. So you clean their foot really, really good. You teach them how to put this cream on it. You give them a pair of shoes. You send them home with enough to get rid of whatever's wrong with them. And then as long as they'll keep wearing the shoes, they'll be very, very good. But you can see the size of that foot. Would never fit in any, even a wide shoe here. And you can see the water. That kind of gives you an idea of what the feet come in looking like. They're just a tad bit dirty. Anyway, ups. Oh, you don't have to go back. It's pretty bad stuff anyway. You can if you want, though. Are you going to? Okay. So they cook outside, right? So that's a burn. And thank you, David, very much, because that burn cream went home with that person. So you just know, you just know. Somebody sends something, it's going to get put to use. If it puts on your heart to send it, you best pack it or send it, one way or the other. That they use this stuff, I didn't really call it nasty paste. My term for it is poop paste, because that's what it looks like to me. It's got this grass in it, and I don't know what they make out of it, but they cover wounds with it, which it does cover the wounds. Sometimes they heal, but sometimes when you get all that off there, it's just full of all kinds of pussy, nasty, whatever, because they don't have anything else to put on it. So anyway, that's kind of how they start out. This little kid probably had some kind of sore on his head up here, and then picked at it, and it just became like infantigo, nasty mess on his head. So we cleaned it off. We gave Dad some triple antibiotic ointment. That baby was really mad at me, so he got socks and shoes, which made him much happier, and the little thing on his head so he would leave it alone. So anyway, and then that's just a mama and her little kiddo sitting on my lap while she's getting her stuff done. And that kid, it's a sore, I think, on their neck. And because they don't have stuff to put on it, they had that nasty poop stuff on that before I cleaned it off. But it'll heal now, though. This guy has elephantitis. It's a swelling of the lymph system. And so that's why his feet don't really look like feet. But someone, like I said, the things that you bring, someone brought a pair of like the boots that if you broke the top of your foot that you would wear, and there were 2 of them. So they fit all kinds of things, right? So we did his feet, we put the bandages on there, and there are his shoes. So now he came walking barely with someone on one side and a cane because it hurt for him to walk. But the next picture, he left standing on his feet, and the next one walking away with no cane. So God is good. I mean, there's just no other way. Nothing but God, absolutely. And that's just a funny picture because Grace and I spent most of the day bent down, cleaning feet or whatever needed to be cleaned. And we were having contests to see whose knees were actually the dirtiest at the end of the day. So I think we tied. Your turn, I think. Malnutrition stuff.
This is Pat himself, and that to get to spend the time with that man and to see his vision and to see God using him. He loves these people. He has such a love for all these people that it was just amazing to watch him. This was a dad that came in with 6 little children, and the triage area, we were kind of backed up and everything. So then they have these, I meant to bring it, and because I brought one home and I forgot, these tools that we had to put on the baby's arms. And if it was in the yellow or red zone, we wrote on their paper, Pat, because Pat was going to see these children. And this dad came in, and Pat just took them to the side, and he just took care of them. All 6 of those babies were so malnourished and everything. I didn't hear the story. I don't know if mom was in the picture or what, but it just blessed me to watch this man. It just did. And you can just look at these babies and see how malnourished and everything they are. That one, I loved him. Those big eyes, they were amazing. And the thing of it was about being in triage, you can just keep going, honey. And I got, by taking the temperature, I got to see almost every one of these little children, and it was amazing. And you know, the thing that you could tell the ones that had hope and they knew, because I was looking in their eyes. But there was some of them that there was nothing there when you looked. And it just broke my heart. And I prayed that when they made it through the medical, that they were ministered to and was able to find that joy. This is some of the bread you've seen that Jeff made sure as the people, because you can go to the next one, babe. After they would get evaluated and see Pat, they would put them in this tent and they would all just wait. And they would get a big group of them to transport to the pediatric clinic for further evaluation. And Lori had said, take bubbles. So we took bubbles, and they were getting restless, and we had closed down triage. So I went in the tent, and this just amazed me when I looked back at the pictures. If you watch that mama and you just watch those kids, go on to the next one, babe. Look at those faces now. Just a simple thing of blowing bubbles for them. And the mamas jumped up there, wanting to do it. And, just the small little things that, like Lori said, if God told you to take it, pack it and take it, because it's going to make them, it's going to be needed somewhere. And we had ended up with a bunch of jump ropes. I think Grace helped this little girl figure out how to jump. And this little boy, he's dressed a lot nicer and everything. He actually belonged, I think, to some of the people there in the church, because we've seen him around a lot. But he got it mastered that, well, he's going off the video, honey. He got it mastered that he had that jump rope going. And, but just the small things. Somebody had brought a beach ball, and they would be out there in that center where he's jumping, and they'll all just playing with the dollar beach ball that we would think, But, yes, and my husband had to throw that in there, the dum-dums. We went 2 days in the same clothes because I wanted my dum-dums in my carry-on instead of the 2 extra days of clothes they advised. But you know what? It was worth it, because when I pulled those dum-dums out of my pocket, it wasn't just the smile that went on that baby's face, but the way that mama's face would light up. It was so worth not having clean clothes for 2 days. It was okay. So this was the eye doctor, and Kim had came to me and asked me what I was going to do with my scrubs, because he thought they looked about the size that the eye doctor needed. So my OSU scrubs that were donated to me got to stay in Ethiopia. And I had complained about those scrubs because my daughter-in-law gave them to me, and apparently she likes wearing men's scrubs instead of women's. I had no pockets. And I kept complaining to Lori, what am I going to do with my dum-dums? But Hand of Hope took care of us. They gave us a little apron. I had pockets for my dum-dums. But God knew what he was doing. That man needed those scrubs. And so they stayed in Ethiopia with him. Your turn.
It is?
Yeah, that's the success.
Oh, okay. So the little girl in the front with that dark coat on, her name is Dinkadish, but we call her Lucy because that's easier. And she was one of the girls rescued from sex trafficking. The little boy, who's about as tall as her now, she had, through the course of things that happened horribly to her. So they rescued her, took her boy. They put her through also vocational school. She is the head chef at the pediatric hospital now. She has met her husband, who is the guy holding the little girl, and that's the little girl that they have together. He has pretty much, I don't know if they adopt children in Ethiopia, but that boy is his boy, And Jeff and Diane, they've been going almost as long over there as I have, and they have kind of adopted that family, kind of helped support them and stuff. So when we got to the pediatric clinic, they were all about going to find her and seeing their families.
And the little girl, she's just adorable.
She's a sweet
she's just precious.
Are you want me to do this, or you want to do this?
Oh, we wanted to just point out at this point, you don't know what you're going to see in Ethiopia. We had the sign. There in the background, you got the public transportation, that bus, but you got a donkey walking down the street too. So,
yeah, and that is the pediatric clinic. That's the team, of course, all going to look it over. The next few pictures are pictures of the clinic. They have another clinic that they're opening really soon in a different area, but that's one of the malnourished boys at the clinic. And the next picture, that's him a couple days later. So his eyes are brighter. He's got a little color to his skin. He doesn't have an IV, so he probably wasn't so horrible that he couldn't eat anymore, but he probably would not have lived a very long time. I think I told you guys before, when they take these people, they don't just find the kids, feed the kids, because if they did, the kids wouldn't end up getting to eat later. So they feed the whole family. So everyone eats in that family if they find a malnourished child. And that's the hospital. Yeah.
That's the sign for the expansion.
Yeah, so they're going to get more and more. Those are the bags of grain that they send home with every family every month. They come there to get the food, and they made it a point to make sure, you could turn it, Charles, that a lot of those people were picking up their food on the day that we came. So that guy's carrying his baby and his, 50-pound of whatever on his head to get there. And that mama didn't have somebody to carry hers. So she got her little girl, and they're on their way, off and running. I think they're much stronger than we are. Now this is Tammy.
God gave me, I felt like a word after I got home. And, my thought, this was my thought that, what do you think of when you think of a sloth? And this is the only thing my mind went to, so we're going to play this little clip real quick.
Well, I was hoping you could run a plate for us. We are in a really big hurry.
Sure. What's the plate?
29, T.
Number.
29THD03.
Two. 9.
THD03.
T.
HD03.
H.
D03.
D.
03.
0.
3.
Hey, Flash, want to hear a joke?
No!
Sure.
What do you call a three-humped camel?
I don't know. What do you call a
3-humped camel.
3-humped camel?
Pregnant.
Yes, very funny, very funny. Can we please just focus on the text?
But, you know, that's the first thing my brain ever thought of when I thought of was sloth. But, you know, that's actually a spiritual thing. It's we're settling for, we have spiritual apathy and inactivity. And I was like, okay, God. So I went and looked up the characteristics of a sloth. So I just put down a few here. And the first one that really jumped out to me is that they live a solitary life. Well, that's not what God wants for us. So in Proverbs 18:1, it says, a man who isolates himself seeks his own desires and rages against all wise judgment. And I was like, you know, this was just what God was speaking to me because I needed it. The second characteristic is that they have a low metabolism. And it can take them, they survive on very little food. It takes them days to process what other animals, you know, digest in a matter of hours. And, you know, we as Christians, we need the word daily to be in that relationship that we need to be in with God. So, you know, we don't want to be like the sloth. We want to study and do daily. The next thing that jumped out to me was that they sleep around 15 hours a day. And you know, the thing that jumped out at me was in Matthew 13, it talks about that we are instructed to always be watching, lest he come and find us sleeping. So, you know, my heart's cry is, Lord, don't let me be asleep. Let me be doing what you want me to do. And then the fourth thing is that they're helpless on the ground. And, you know, we as humans are very helpless. But in Psalms 121, 1 and 2, it says, my help cometh from the Lord, which made the heaven and the earth. You know, so we, you know, I myself, I know it's hard because I can do this. I can do this by myself. I don't, you know, but I want to be where God wants me to be and look to him for my strength. And the last thing that really jumped at me is that 90% of their time, they are emotionless. And I was listening to somebody, and they read this little clip, and I thought it was kind of appropriate. This story is about 4 people named Everybody, Nobody, Anybody, and Nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody could do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job, but everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. In the end, it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. So, you know, I just feel like God's just really put on my heart that our determined purpose in this life is that we are to have a fulfilled relationship with him so that we can go about doing what he wants us to do. And I put in a few more pictures real quick. We toured this house. We actually walked through this house. You can just flip through it quickly, honey. This is, you can see the outside, what it's made of and how it looks. And if you look flip into the inside, this was the floor, a dirt floor. That was their storage. That was their bedding where they slept. That was a different sleeping area. There was 2 like sleeping areas, but they had their tea ceremony, or coffee. I keep saying tea. It's a coffee ceremony. And you just see that little wooden bench they had to sit on. And, you know, the thing that's really been my desire is we're going to play the video of that they did at the clinic. And God, I just keep hearing, you know, will you refuse to do nothing? And I don't want to be that person that does nothing. I want to do what God wants me to do. And, you know, you see the conditions these people have. But look, watch this video of how they worship.
They were thanking God for the provision of food.
Yes, they all had dum-dums. This was their drums that was able to join in. This was their instrument. Their instruments were their water buckets. And I don't know if we got it in this clip or not because I had several, but it was just amazing to watch that even the doctors that were taking care of these people would come once they started worshiping and join in with them. And I had some clips of "We're Us Americans." I stood to the side and videoed. I don't have a groove. I don't. There went the doctor. He walked through, and we cut off video. So, and then the next, and Lori can finish up.
So those are the totals for the week. 4,446 people seen. You guys can read them. 4,000 plus medical, 449 dental, extractions, physical therapy, massage, eyes, 22,230 prescriptions. Those people were working their fannies off. But the most important one of all, 807 salvations. There you go. Thank you guys for helping us to be able to do that. Very, very, very much. I'll take my torn up shoes. I'll take them next year.